Check 1, 2.
When I get a meeting together and I start with the phrase, this might be a stupid idea, but that's how it all started.
So Jason came to me and he asked me if we can do a feature for Christmas because we couldn't do our Light Has Come musical because of COVID.
Could we make something video, music videos, testimonies, 30, 45 minutes long? What if, and that's when it started, what if? Could we play this on TV? I don't know cost, I don't know what this will take. I know the time and I know we're out of time, but we can do this.
That's something that I felt like this church has always had the potential to do. We just didn't really have all the right pieces in place or the right story at that time. And so I believe that there is incredible power in being able to tell stories through video, through film, that can reach a segment of people that typically a church can never really reach.
The first time I heard Bruce's story was at my house. We hadn't been here very long, and Bruce and Andrea had just moved their family down, and we were just talking, and she was like, did Bruce tell you about his story yesterday? And kind of in a way that, maybe he shares this story a lot, and I was like, no, I don't think we heard about it. And so we just sat there and had a conversation about all the things that had happened to him in his life and his childhood. And I just remember my jaw being on the floor the entire time. Because when you hear the things that happened in his story, and then you put it into context of where he is today and the way he is with his family, you almost don't, it doesn't compute.
When we heard Bruce's story from him firsthand, instantly the gravity of that story surpassed any of the other stories that we were considering using. And all of a sudden it became, hey, let's do a feature with 2 or 3 stories, to we have one story, it's Bruce's story, and it's gonna be the entire feature.
When we asked him to take a week of his life to shoot this story, he didn't have to think about it. He said yes. When we told him that we wanted him to take that week and not just film it here at home where he could sleep in his own bed and be with his wife and children every night for a week, he didn't bat an eye, he just said yes. When we asked him to go to the cemetery where his parents are buried on the date of their death, he said yes.
It definitely makes it harder being friends and knowing them and their family and their kids and loving them to go through this type of process with somebody. Because it's not just a random person. I see him going through this interview process and filming, and I mean every single day I feel like I was in tears at some point. You're overwhelmed with what's happening, and you're overwhelmed for your friend and for what they had to go through.
In a process like this, it is so difficult to be open with the truth in a real way. We naturally want to sugarcoat things that we say. We want to put a nice shiny bow on the things that we say in our life experiences. Even if you're willing to share, you're not willing to share everything. You stop short. And I never felt like Bruce or his family through this entire process stopped short. I felt like they were willing to share even the most difficult things with us.
This film communicates a real story that every single one of us can relate to. Even if we can't relate to the depth of the tragedy that Bruce and his family experienced, we can relate to the brokenness of this world, and we can relate to the pain and the trauma and the adjustment that was required, and ultimately the healing of Jesus. So, in terms of our church culture, we want to be a place where people can come and connect with the gospel through real people and an authentic faith. And then secondly, everything you see in the Nothing Wasted film is original to Bell Shoals. I mean, even the music that you hear as background music to those of us who aren't in this business every day, just what appears to be just a subtle passing kind of sound in the documentary, that was written by our team. It was recorded by professional musicians, captured and put into the film. And then, of course, all the filming, the editing, the storyboarding, the research that our creative team did. It's just so phenomenal to see a project like this that's so far-reaching, done with such excellence, and literally 100% of it done by Bell Schultz.
Trying to get these cameras more on top of each other, but that's so my role on this project was cinematographer and editor, and along with my co-DP Ryan Sanderson, we were in charge of lighting the scenes and capturing the action, and really in charge of kind of shaping the story through the lens of the camera. Go ahead. See that? The skipping on the pavement is what I'm going for.
Yeah, that's great.
Super nice. The challenging thing about a cinematic documentary is that it is first and foremost a documentary. So Bruce's story is unfolding in real time in front of us. So telling that in a cinematic way is challenging for a cinematographer because we have to react in real time as far as lighting choices and with our composition and how we place Bruce in the frame to evoke that same emotion and communicate the emotion that we're feeling on set to the viewing audience.
Hey, sorry. Welcome.
Okay.
There's that.
So it's like it's Soltasta, but it's like it's kind of random. There's like a little ricochet effect.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So music, particularly live music, completely can transform and bring a movie to a whole different level. And so the vision of this film is that, I would create a lot of tracks where I would just sit right here and play out piano parts and pads and, various different elements and percussion. But there's something about strings in particular that can evoke an emotion. It's beautiful. It's incredible because in one sense, they can create tension and then beauty almost at the same time. It's very hard to articulate. And when a player holds an instrument in their hand and they begin to play, that emotion that they're feeling from the music suddenly gets translated through what they play. And so having the privilege of being able to use live players on top of the tracks that we recorded here, really it just added so much more to the music and so much more emotion that I feel like just really elevated everything that we did. And it really was a collaborative process. Jason helped him with charts, and we had Jonathan Willis and Josiah Stroud who played guitar and added to this. Everybody got to be part of this and to experience the story in that way.
When you come into contact with what God does in our lives in a real way, not in an artificial way, not in a exaggerated way, but when you come into contact with what God has done for us in a real story with a real person, you're impacted.
The truth is that none of this would have happened without the bold moves that have gone into every facet of this, not just of our leadership and our creative team and our worship team, but also the bold moves and the support of every single person who attends Bell Shows.
I've been on this Christian journey for a long time, and it's neat to see God reveal himself in a brand new way like this year to me. Just to be able to just once again know that he's in charge and that we need to just fully trust in him.
And I think sometimes that surprises us how much it impacts us. But the reality is like those real stories are baked into every single person's life. Like we all have a story. Circumstances might be different, but we all have that story. If you've come to know Jesus, you have that point in which he's made contact with you and your life is forever changed. Even when we go through things that are just, devastating and tragic, somehow, some way, God is able to bring good out of that. And that's, I think, to me, the thing that I took out of Bruce's story. No matter what happened in his life, nothing was wasted. I just think it's a beautiful picture of how the gospel is and how none of our lives are wasted for us that know Jesus.
It's weird to even think about saying, I'm thankful for COVID.
We have the opportunity to reach literally thousands upon thousands of people through our creative team. And I'm very excited about the future and seeing future projects like this and even greater projects, because no doubt the Lord will use our efforts to reach not just West Central Florida, but literally people all around the world through these creative efforts.
And this documentary really is, I think, a step in that direction of establishing this is who we are, and this is what we've come to say.